It's Friday, January 19th, 2018. It's that time of the hour for your favorite NFL program. Welcome to the Championship Sunday edition of the Blitz Zone. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Rosen, and I'm coming to you live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. We have so much to get into, and as always, not so much time. Well, we do get an hour, so that is just enough time to get us through the remaining games going into this week. All right, let's start, though, with the news of the week. Our favorite time of the year, when the season ends, is the coaching carousel. Just hold on 1 second, folks. Just had to close the door by the studio. All right. Well, anyway, the coaching carousel. That usually takes place during the time when the NFL season ends, the regular season ends at least, and there are teams looking to find that new leader who will take their franchise into the next year and maybe a Vincent Lombardi trophy. Well, the New York Giants are one of those teams, and they may have found their next chief, Pat Shurmur, the current offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, who worked wonders with Case Keenum on this 2017 season. Case Keenum, a guy who the last 5 years was a 24 touchdown to 20 interception QB, as, a journeyman on so many teams, now finding his home with the Vikings. Well, Pat Shurmur was able to turn that guy into a 23 touchdown to 8 interception QB this year. He revamped the offensive line. This was a team that was 10th in points per game, 23.9 the average. Rushed 7th in rushing yards offensively at 122.3 a game, and third down, and number 3 in third down conversions at 43.5%, and 11th in overall passing yards per game at 234.6. With those type of numbers, maybe he can do something about the New York Giants and this failed offensive line, the inability to run the ball, bottom 7th in the league. And then you look at the points per game, almost at times non-existent for this Giant squad. And the QB situation. We don't know for sure what's going to happen with Eli Manning. Is he returning next year for what could be his final year in 2018, or was 2017 his last hurrah? Which, if I was Eli Manning, honestly, do I want people to remember 2017 as my final year in the sunset? No. No way. I think Eli does come back. And depending on what happens with the Jaguars this weekend, either he's going to be with the Giants or a Jag or next year. Either way, I think Eli will be in the NFL. It depends, but I think it's going to be one of those two teams. And the only reason why it will be the Jaguars is because of Tom Coughlin being in the front office. Otherwise, I don't think any other team would take a chance with Eli. Now, as for Pat Shurmur with the Giants, the fact that his team is currently in the NFC title game in Philadelphia this weekend, Pat can't officially sign with the Giants until the Vikings season is over, whether it's this week or in 2 weeks from this Sunday at the Super Bowl. Either way, Pat Shurmur cannot officially sign until his team's 2017 season is officially done with. And the work that he did with Minnesota is commendable. So, Pat, congratulations on this job. I think you're going to do a lot of wonders for this New York team and maybe get Odell Beckham to finally be that mature receiver that we all hope he can be, because he definitely lacks in that area. And hopefully he'll stay healthy too and not get injured and not lose a pep in his step. Now, as for the Indianapolis Colts, another such team like the New York Giants, who went out not too well this season in terms of their overall record, well, they found themselves a new head coach. Like Pat Shurmur, it's Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. In the same situation like Pat with the New York Giants, Josh cannot sign with the Indianapolis Colts until the New England Patriots season is officially over. They're going to be at home this weekend hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC title game. And the way that he's been able to work well with the New England offense, he revamped himself. He had a failed stint as a head coach in 2009 to 2010 with the Denver Broncos. Yes, the first year is when, of course, he had the wild card round game in overtime in which Tim Tebow threw the game-winning 88-yard touchdown to Demaryius Thomas. Other than that, the next season was a complete, utter failure, and he was fired by the ownership at that time in 2010. Then he went back to New England as an offensive coordinator yet again and found himself and led the Patriots to 2 Super Bowl victories in 3 years with his innovative style and the way that the offense is able to adapt to every single team that they play against. That's why he's such a creative genius that whoever the QB will be in Indianapolis, Josh McDaniels is going to do a good job, whether it's Andrew Luck, which some people think he'll return from that shoulder injury that surgery he had back in January last year, which precluded him from playing in 2017, or will it be Andrew Luck's replacement from 2017, Jacoby Brissett? But no matter who the QB is under center, the problem with this team is the offensive line, which gave up the most sacks in the NFL at 56. That's been needing a lot of tweaking in the last 5 years. And I think Chris Ballard, the current general manager, is the type of guy who will make the necessary draft picks and trades and deals to get an offensive line that will protect the QB at all times. As for Frank Gore, I don't know if he'll return next year, but he's definitely going to be a future Hall of Famer for sure. So Marlon Mack will be the key at running back for this year. And they do have T.Y. Hilton, who's a genuinely good receiver, but he needs some help around him. Honestly, he needs some receiving help. And the defense, again, being honest here, the secondary is probably the worst part of this Colts defense that needs a lot of tweaking too. So Josh McDaniels is walking into a rebuilding project. I don't know if I think he'll get more wins from the Colts next year, but I don't know if they're going to be playoff bound. I'd say in another 2 years, he's going to get this team back to where it should be, dominating the AFC South. Now, Matt Patricia, a fellow coordinator in New England with Josh McDaniels, but on the defensive side, the guy who looks like a glorified lumberjack. He really does remind me of a lumberjack, but you got to give this guy so much credit for what he's done for the defense. They had an 8-game stretch in which they gave up less than 17 points a game, as opposed to the first 2 games where they were giving up over 30 points and 400 yards. So he got this defense working in its favor. Since he came on board as a DC in 2012 for the New England Patriots, the Pats have gone 75-21 overall. And they've allowed maybe 107.1 rushing yards a game, which is 12th in the NFL in that time span. 246.7 passing yards, which is 25th in that time span. And, his teams, have held teams out of the end zone this year, or hold opponents at times, allowing 19.2 points per game, second in the NFL to Seattle over that same time frame. So it's really amazing the work that his defense has done for him, and that's what's good about him being hired by the now Detroit Lions. Bob Quinn, the current general manager, has worked in New England, so he knows Matt Patricia's work very well. It was an easy pick, and it wouldn't have been shocking to see Mike Vrabel in the conversation for that job as well. But at the end of the day, I think Matt Patricia is going to do a very good job working with Bob Quinn and the Ford family to getting this defense where it needs to be, so it doesn't put Matthew Stafford in such a situation where he'll have to make another fourth quarter overtime magic drive take place. It takes the sting and pressure off of him. And they have a good secondary. I really like Govert Quinn and Darius Slay. I think the defensive front seven and Ziggy Ansah is a good part of that defensive front seven, but he's going to need some help around him. And offensively, I think they have a good offense in place, Golden Tate, but they need to get a running back. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher in the last 5 years. Good luck to you, Matt Patricia, with this organization. But again, like Josh McDaniels and Pat Shurmur, he can't officially sign with the team until New England's postseason is over. Speaking of postseason's over, and I'll get into detail in a little bit, the Tennessee Titans, Mike Mularkey, the team, who was the head coach for the Tennessee Titans, whose team lost 35-14 to the Patriots this past weekend. And again, as I mentioned, I'll go into some detail in a little bit. But because of the fact that the Titans season was over, there were rumblings about whether or not the Titans were going to bring Mike Mularkey back. And the same situation occurred actually during the wild card round when they defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 22-21, that if Mularkey didn't win that game, he was going to be fired, yet he wins, and now it gives him another chance to prove to Amy Adams Strunk that he is deserving of an extension with that Titans team, of a contract extension. And with the unfortunate loss to the New England Patriots this past weekend, that confidence was diminished. Yet, the Titans wanted to extend him a contract. However, they wanted something in return, a new coaching staff surrounding him, and Mike Mularkey, that was his sticking point. He said, no way am I going to allow my coaching staff that I've been with these last 2 years to go away. This is who I want with me, especially with Dick LeBeau and as a defensive coordinator. And they told him, no, we need a new coaching staff. So right now, Mike Mularkey and the Titans decided this past Monday to mutually part ways from each other. And now the Titans are looking for a new head coach. Some candidates that are actually on the table: offense coordinator Matt LaFleur of the Los Angeles Rams, a team that was second in the league with 32.9 points a game. And then you look at Mike Vrabel, the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, who has some roots, of course, with New England as well. It's like New England literally is everywhere. Even in Cleveland, John Dorsey, who is a personnel man with the New England Patriots, is the new general manager for the Cleveland Browns. Bob Quinn, as I mentioned, and the general manager for John Robison with the Tennessee Titans, who has ties to New England. So it's really something to this situation right here, who the Titans are going to select to be their next coach. But whoever it's going to be, you have a good quarterback in place in Marcus Mariota. You have a dynamic three-down back in Derrick Henry. You have a good young receiver in Corey Davis, who finally this past weekend didn't just get his first, but his second touchdown of the postseason. Not even the regular season, but 2 in one postseason game. So that gives you a lot of hope. He was one of the fastest 40-yard runners at the Combine in 2017 out of Western Michigan. I'm happy that he was selected 5th overall by the Titans last year. He's a good receiver to build around. And then defensively with Jarrell Casey and with Jonathan Cyprien in the secondary, as well as Logan, they have some pieces in place for whoever the next coach is going to be. So they will be competing for sure in the AFC South. And the fact that this past year, the fact that Mike Mularkey ended an 8-year postseason drought, and yet he was let go, it just makes no sense. But it reminds me back of 2002 when Steve Mariucci was let go from the Baltimore Ravens. So in that same scenario, it's really I hate when things like this take place. Now, or I think it was the 49ers. Anyway, but in terms of head coaches, not as many got fired as we all thought. And by the way, the Arizona Cardinals job is another job that's still up for grabs along with the Tennessee Titans. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, go for Steve Wilkes from Carolina. I think that would be the best choice, and I think he will be somebody to work well with them. Or if they want to go for Mike Vrabel, it's their choice at the end of the day. Or how about Terrell Austin, formerly of the Detroit Lions? That is going to be an awesome person to pick up. I think he could really do a good job with that organization. This past year, though, more coordinators have been fired than actual head coaches and GMs. This has been the offseason of the coordinator's worst nightmare, starting with Todd Haley, now former offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who after 6 years of service with the organization has been let go after the Steelers' postseason run ended, losing 45-42 to the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. The fact that each of the past 4 years, his offenses have been the top 10 scoring offenses, which is the longest streak since the 1970s era for the Steelers, when, of course, they won 4 Super Bowls with current Fox personality Terry Bradshaw when he was the quarterback, and you had Lynn Swann at wide receiver, Franco Harris, and you had the late great Mike Webster on that offensive line, and the Hall of Famer Mean Joe Green on that defense. But anyway, going back to the current era for the Steelers nation, his draft evaluation of Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, who had 5 straight 100 receiving seasons under him, and then getting Juju Smith-Schuster at USC and Martavis Bryant, selecting him, being part of that Killer Bees squad. I'm really shocked that they let him go. I think, though, the discord between him and the Steelers began Week 15 when they unfortunately lost, to the New England Patriots 27-24. It was the final play of the game when Roethlisberger decided on 4th down, instead of going for the game-tying touchdown, he wanted to go for the game-tying field goal. Instead of going for the game-tying field goal, they went for the game-winning touchdown. Sorry if I got myself mixed and tongue-tied on that one. But it blew up in Roethlisberger's face. They turned it over on downs. Steelers lost 27-24 and therefore lost home field advantage throughout the playoffs to the Patriots for the final 2 weeks of the season. But despite the fact that Big Ben averaged 300 yards passing per game since 2014, is attributed to Haley's work. And look what he's done. He was with the Arizona Cardinals back in 2008 when they nearly made the impossible happen, but unfortunately lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers at that time in Super Bowl 43. And then because of what he did with Arizona, he became the head coach of the Chiefs and had a 2-year run. Unfortunately, an almost 3-year run with the organization, but unfortunately was fired Week 14 of the 2011 season when we went 19-26. Then he decided to take his talents to Pittsburgh where things have worked out. I hope he finds a job somewhere. Who knows? He may come to a New York team near us. And I'll explain that just a second right there. Speaking of which, the New York Jets fired John Morton as offense coordinator after 1 year with the organization. Philosophical differences on his West Coast style offense, which is predicated on passing the ball heavily, sort of like the old Don Coryell, Air Coryell style or the air raid type of offense. And the team was 24th in scoring, 28th in total yards. Philosophical differences between him and head coach Todd Bowles. Therefore, it was the right decision for them to part ways with John Morton, even after 1 year. But if they're going to pick up a coach, why not possibly John DeFilippo, the quarterback's coach for the Eagles, who is still – but the problem with John DeFilippo, they had a chance to get him last year, and DeFilippo said no. And this year, not only is he not saying yes to this, but he may be a coaching candidate for the Arizona Cardinals vacancy. So that could be a bit of a snag or problem. Or here's another option, Todd Haley. Did say maybe more than a second explaining why I mentioned that earlier in the segment with Pittsburgh, but come on. I think it would be a good decision for the Jets to pick him up with his ability to get offenses to run the ball very well and pass. And if Le'Veon Bell is offered an enticing deal by the Jets to come to New York, just saying, with Todd Haley there, he knows Todd Haley's system. Now, I'm just spitballing. I'm just, I'm just putting an idea out there. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the case. Maybe that will be the case. Ken Norton Jr., who was the linebackers coach from 2010 to 2014 with the Seattle Seahawks, then left to go to the Oakland Raiders for the last few years, has decided to come back to Seattle as a defensive coordinator for the 2018 season. I actually really like this move. And he's going back to a familiar coaching staff with Pete Carroll, who he's been with since their days together at USC, and followed him to Seattle. Now, you know how they say who says you can't go home? The song from John Bon Jovi and Jennifer Nettles, from Sugarland, who participates in that song. And I really it's one of my favorite Bon Jovi songs. Well, who says you can't get home at all? You can, and that's what Ken Norton is doing. So congratulations to the Seahawks, though at the same time he kind of snubbed the 49ers, but he does have a clause in his contract that gives him the right to do this. So he made his move. Let's see what happens with Seattle next year, and will the Legion of Boom be the same as they were years ago, or did we see the end of that era? Speaking of errors, how about those Alabama Crimson Tides, who just defeated the Georgia Bulldogs to win their 5th national title in 9 years with Nick Saban. And now their offensive coordinator has decided to jump from college ranks to the pros. That's right. He's going to be the new offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, his native city, where he actually currently has a home. He attended St. Francis High School there in the suburb of Hamburg and played football at the University of Rochester. So it's a homecoming for him, and he's had experience as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He had a 2-year stint from 2009 to 10 with the Cleveland Browns. In 2011, he was with the Miami Dolphins. Then he went to Kansas City in 2012 as the OC for the Chiefs. He had 2 offensive assistant stints with the New England Patriots. The only time he was ever a coach in his career was as a restricted earnings coach for the William Mary Tribe back in 1997, when Sean McDermott, who's the current head coach of the Buffalo Bills, was actually a player for William Mary at that time. And now he's going to have to revamp an offense that was 29th in the NFL in average yards per game, 302.6, tied for 24th in scoring points at 17.6. Yet the Bills went 9-7. They ended the longest postseason drought in North American history, a 17-year drought, by going to the wild card round against the Jaguars, unfortunately losing 10-3 in that game. But some things that are going to have to be solved is the QB situation. Is it going to be Tyrod Taylor or Nathan Peterman, which neither is a good choice? And then you look at the situation receiving-wise. With the exception of Kelvin Benjamin, I'm not confident in the rest of that receiving core. I'm going to be okay in Charles Clay. He's decent, but the rest of the receiving core is nothing to be desired. That needs to be worked on. And the offensive line, with the exception of Richie Incognito, also needs a lot of revamping, retweaking. Got your work cut out for you, Brian Dabble, but hey, you can do well with as an OC in Alabama. Let's see if you can bring some of that spunk and that genius offensive coordinatorship to Buffalo, if that's even a word. Well, speaking of college football, the University of Arizona Wildcats team, as we all know, fired Rich Rodriguez due to a sexual harassment allegation that has come to light, an investigation that began back in October from a former employee, and a hostile workplace lawsuit that was handed to him, that was filed against him as well. It was too much for the University of Arizona to deal and take, so they decided it'd be best to part ways with Rich Rodriguez at this time, while he's going through these legal issues, and this time go for a coach who does have so many picadillos and negative press and negative things going on against him. And not only that, you shouldn't have a guy in this day. If somebody's accused of sexual harassment, that's it. And you know what? The fact is, this has been investigated for some time. So whatever happens with Rich is whatever happens with him on the outside. It's not going to affect Arizona, what they want to do as a team for next year. So they decided to hire a new coach, Kevin Sumlin, from Texas A&M, who in 6 years was 51-26. He's going to bring back the same squad, offensive coordinator Noel Mazzone in that same capacity. They were one of a handful of teams with 200 rushing yards and passing yards per game, while having 467 total yards. And he's going to bring back Marcel Yates to be his defensive coordinator. They got a lot of work cut out for them, but good luck to Kevin Sumlin in Arizona. And to see him and then Herm Edwards with Arizona State, it's going to be fun to see what the Sun Devil, the Sun Devil State does next year when they play each other. 2 first new head coaches. When they play each other towards the end of the year, it's going to be fun. Can't wait to see what takes place for these 2 organizations. Now, let's go into recapping what was the AFC Divisional Playoff weekend. In New England, the New England Patriots, number 1 overall seed, 13-3 season, over 4,600 passing yards. Great year for Tom Brady, as usual, in the Bionic Man's 40-year-old age season. And I never thought to say that. He's 40 years old starting this game. With a victory, he could be the oldest quarterback in NFL history to win a playoff game. But he's got to go through Marcus Mariota and those troublesome Tennessee Titans, who just came off their 22-21 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in the wild card round. Let's get to the game right here. on the first play of the game. And you would think this is be very crazy right here. And I got my mountains of notes right here. Forget it. You know what? I don't want to give you guys too much detail because sometimes when you give too much detail, it could bore people to death. And that's not what I'm about. I'm not here to bore people. Just give you enough details, but also give you some enticing games to talk about. So anyway, Marcus Mariota on the first scoring drive of the game belonged to the Tennessee Titans. Out of the shotgun, Marcus Mariota gets the pass, throws it down the left sideline to, of course, Corey Davis on the one-handed grab. First touchdown of the entire season. Not once did he get a touchdown during the regular season, but in the divisional round, at the most important time, he gets his first touchdown, and they're up 7-0. But, just because you're up 7-0 on the Patriots doesn't mean you're going to win when there's still plenty of time for Tom Brady. And that's your enemy against Tom Brady. It's time. So, Tom Brady and the Patriots go on a 35-point blitzkrieg, including several rushing scores, and a nice little toss to Brandon Bolden as well, and some creative runs by Dion Lewis and company, and an awesome touchdown pass in the back of the end zone towards the end of the first half to Chris Hogan. And, it's a great first half. They're up 21-7. And yet they go on a bigger scoring blitz, including in the second half, a fourth-quarter touchdown pass to Rob Gronkowski. Yes, Tennessee was able to score at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, at the 2-minute warning to Corey Davis. Again, 2 touchdowns in one game. Congratulations to him, but wasn't going to do anything, especially Danny Amendola, who got great third-down catches. And then you look at James White, who had a touchdown pass caught and ran for a touchdown as well in this game. And they end up winning 35-14 over this Tennessee Titans team. The Titans, as I mentioned earlier, mutually parted ways with Mike Mularkey. They are searching for a new head coach, and it's going to be a new coaching staff, which does mean, this could be a whole new philosophical system for Marcus Mariota to have to learn again next year. Or will they find somebody that will be able to cater towards Mariota's skill set? Fast, up-tempo offense, running the ball occasionally with him and Derrick Henry with the play-action passes remains to be seen. But this Titans team, as I mentioned earlier, has something for the future for sure to work with. They just need the right head coach and staff. That's where Amy Adams-Strunk is going to work her tail off, along with the rest of that front office, with John Robinson working his tail off as well, to find that right head coach, to really help the team. But as for the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, age 40, gets a postseason victory. First time ever in NFL history, the oldest to do so. 10 career postseason games with at least 3 touchdowns, breaking the tie he had with Joe Montana for the most in NFL history. The fact that he had 13 300-yard games in postseason history, that's another record he extended. Overall, this team is just headed in a great trajectory towards possibly a 6th franchise title, which could tie the Steelers for the most in NFL history. Speaking of the Steelers, hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars, another great season from them, as well as the Jaguars. Jaguars defense, number 1 against the pass. Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin changing the culture of the organization, bringing in good free agents as well as rookies to get this organization on the right track, and that track really went well. Let's go off in the beginning of the game. Leonard, on the first scoring drive of the game, it was the Jacksonville Jaguars on 4th and 2 on a gutsy play, handing off down the middle from Bortles to Leonard Fournette, and he dives over the pile, getting the ball across the goal line. Touchdown, Jacksonville. Then the second touchdown of the game. What precipitated this was 2nd and 11 at the Pittsburgh